Hello, welcome to Bio 3. We will continue the lecture about metabolism. Last time we talked about energy. This time we talk about what is metabolism. Specifically, we'll talk about catabolic reaction and anabolic reaction. We'll also talk about enzyme as well. So metabolic reaction and energy transformation. What is metabolic reaction? What is metabolism? Basically, metabolism consists of two types of reaction: catabolic and anabolic. And the definition of metabolism is here: is the sum of all chemical reactions that occur in a cell. So as I said, there are two types of metabolism or metabolic reaction: catabolic reaction and anabolic reaction. So what are those? Catabolic reaction basically is breakdown reactions that break down stuff. We call it catabolic reaction. For anabolic reaction is build up. We will give you some example what are the catabolic reaction and what are the anabolic reaction. One way to help you to memorize is that catabolic reaction. How many of you have cats as a pet at home? You know that all cats, they destroy everything in your place. Because of that, cats destroy everything in your place. Then catabolic reaction is the breaking down. So catabolic reaction is the breaking down of large molecule into smaller molecule. It is something that we talk about, hydrolysis. Remember hydrolysis? You need water. Hydro is water. Lysis means breakdown. To break down macromolecule, large molecule into the monomer. To break down polymer into monomer. Another example of catabolic reaction is oxidation reaction. So what is oxidation reaction? Oxidation reaction definition is that it's the loss of hydrogen atoms or electrons. It is also releasing of the energy in this process. There's an acronym OIL. OIL. So it means that oxidation. So oxidation is the loss, L stands for loss, of hydrogen atom or electron. In the process of oxidation, remember that energy is released. So what about anabolism? Anabolic reaction, according to the slides, the definition is that the joining of small molecules together to form larger, more complex molecules. But in my personal saying, anabolic reaction is basically the building up. Remember the building up of polymer from monomers. So it's the building of polymer from monomers. Well, remember we learned about dehydration. Yes, it is exactly this dehydration, building of a monomer, building of a polymer from monomers. But the slide's definition is, I would say, is better than my own definition because it is more generalized. It is more generalized because it includes reduction. Reduction is the gain of hydrogen atom or electron. It is also, you also need to gain energy. So what it means is that there's a mnemonic. It's called RIG. So reduction. R stands for reduction. I stands for is. G, the gain of hydrogen atoms or electron. During reduction process, you need energy. You need to absorb energy. So together with oxidation, remember oxidation is oil. So together you have oil rig. So oil rig. And then remember in the oxidation is the release of energy. When the energy release, how do you feel? Let's say if you are holding a test tube and then the test tube is undergoing oxidation only. Okay, I have to emphasize this. Oxidation and reduction, they occur most of the time simultaneously. These two occur most of the time simultaneously. So when you have an oxidation reaction, you usually couple with a reduction reaction. Oxidation reaction coupled with a reduction reaction. Because one release energy, the other gain energy. So when oxidation release energy, it feels it feels hot. When the reduction reaction gain energy, it feels cold. That's why the heat or the energy released from oxidation can drive reduction, which require energy, gains energy. So one hot, one cold. Hot, we call it exergonic reaction. Cold, we call this anagonic. So again, metabolism is the sum of all chemical reactions occurring in the cell. We give you a very simple chemical reaction. A and B, we call it reactant. C and D, we call them products. So the conversion of reactant to product is basically a chemical reaction. We talk about free energy. Free energy is the amount of energy available. What does it mean? Amount of energy available. We'll give you some examples. So remember I told you about exergonic reaction. Exergonic reaction where energy is released. Energy is released. For example, oxidation. When oxidation occurs, energy is released, then we call it exergonic reaction. And delta G, the free energy, is negative value. So remember, this is something that you need to memorize. When delta G is negative, that means it is exergonic reaction. That means it is releasing heat. For andagonic reaction, okay, it requires input of energy. In other words, it will absorb energy. That means it is cold, okay? Exergonic reaction is hot, andagonic reaction is cold. When that happens, delta G is positive. Remember the example I gave you from the last slide? What name the endogonic reaction that is called? Yes, reduction. Okay, what about ATP? ATP is the energy for cells. So in the next module, we will talk about photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And cellular respiration is the process that makes ATP. This is something that you need to memorize. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. You need to memorize this. So ATP for all living cells. No, let's just say living cells. All living cells make ATP, and all living cells use ATP. Again, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is a high energy nucleotide. Yes, it is one of the example we talk about nucleic acid. Remember the beginning of semester, we talk about 4 major type of macromolecules or biological molecule, or 4 major types of food. They are namely carbohydrate, lipid, protein, and nucleic acid. In nucleic acid, we talk about DNA, RNA, and ATP. ATP is a high energy nucleotide that transfers energy between, basically supplies energy for biochemical reaction like cell division, cell movement, etc. Including muscle contraction. Muscle contraction is a very common example for explaining the use of ATP. So we need ATP to contract muscle. In other words, we need ATP to move. And then ATP undergoes something called hydrolysis to release energy in this direction. So basically the top arrow here. So when we break the covalent bond here between the 2 phosphate group, then energy will release. Energy will release. So because, as I mentioned repeatedly in the previous lecture, covalent bond stores energy. So when we break the covalent bond, it releases energy. That's why ATP is a energy molecule. But when it is the reverse, some people call it phosphorylation, but because we call it hydrolysis on the top, we should call it dehydration here. Because we call it hydrolysis at the top, we call it dehydration as the reverse. In other words, ATP is a polymer. Yes, ATP is a polymer. So the reverse should be called dehydration, but some people call it phosphorylation, some people even call it oxidative phosphorylation. So dehydration here. Energy is produced by cellular respiration. Sorry, I should put an N here. Energy is stored in ATP.